What up? It's Dramos, and this is the recap as I do each and every week, breaking down some of the biggest headlines from this last week. Salute, as always, to our girl, B. Marie, who does LA TV mornings via our IG Live, giving you the day's biggest headlines, and then I'll kind of come and collect some of the bigger stories that she covered throughout the week, and we'll talk about it each and every weekend. Now, as I do every weekend, I have an amazing guest. This week, it is Puerto Rican singer and actress Nohemy, who is one of the stars of the show Bravas on YouTube. So she'll be hopping on in just a little bit to help me break down some stories from this last week. But before she gets on here, let's dive into the BS from this last week a little bit. So this is kind of a bittersweet story a little bit. Okay, so one of the bigger things that I feel like has been swept under the rug over this last year, as far as stories and outrage, has been this particular case. So while the Karens of the world have been, leading the fight against mask wearing and protesting that it's a threat to their civil liberties and, of course, their ability to comfortably shop, for the latest fashion from their local Walmart, there's been actual injustices happening, this being one of them. And this particular case I'm speaking of is the Latina soldier Vanessa Guillen, who went missing from Fort Hood in Texas and then was sadly eventually found dead. Now, prior to going missing, she reported being sexually harassed by another soldier, and that soldier is who ultimately ended up allegedly murdering her. Now, we've seen some news from this, finally, at least some sort of justice this last week, where Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy, he announced the firing and suspensions of 14 commanders and lower-level leaders as a result of, and I quote, an investigation into a pattern of sexual assault, harassment, suicides, and murder at Fort Hood. And as I kind of alluded to earlier, what is truly upsetting about this is the lack of public outrage and the lack of overall coverage that we've seen for this case. And I would question all of you patriots out there who had such an issue with Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the flag because it disrespects our service members, and even went as far as to burn your orthopedic Nikes because the brand decided to stand by him.
I'm just out here doing some man stuff, I used to be a true believer in some wearing Nike shoes, especially with some bad ankles, but new ones are in the fire pit. Don't need those anymore. We'll just get rid of those. There we go, Nike. That's what I think of all your crap product, your crap decisions, and standing by some jackass like Colin Kaepernick.
Where is your public outrage now, as one of your supposedly beloved soldiers was failed in the most egregious way humanly possible? For me, it's instances like this that make it painfully obvious that these type of people that I'm speaking of, these supposed patriots, they're not concerned with actually making America great. They're concerned with making America great for a particular type of person. And that doesn't make you a patriot. That makes you a racist. Now, I don't want to sit here and get too dark and, get too negative of the state of the world, even though we're fighting through a lot of BS and a lot of BS is coming to light. So I could just dive into this for the next hour and a half if we really wanted to. I won't do that. I want to keep it flowing. I want to keep it moving, and hopefully, also bring some smiles as you watch this. So I do want to report also some good news that came out this last week in regards to the coronavirus. And what came out was, it broke late last week, the FDA advisory panel gave the green light for Pfizer to start producing their vaccine. And they're saying that it's likely that the vaccine will start to be distributed actually as early as next week to healthcare workers here in the U.S. And this, of course, is much to the excitement of Karens and MAGA lovers everywhere. And because hopefully, this means soon they won't be needing those pesky masks, and they can get back to, spending their time rallying behind some new made-up cause. I don't know. But, that's the BS. That's what we're diving into right now. So hopefully to lighten things up a little bit and just mix it up a little bit, I'm going to bring on my guest for today. So this week's guest helped me break down some more stories. She is a singer and actress. She is the star of the YouTube original series Bravas, and she just dropped her EP called Sin Fin, and it's streaming everywhere right now. Nohemy, how we feeling?
Good, good. I'm feeling good. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Listen, I'm excited to dive into everything you have going on because, like I just mentioned, it's a lot. Before we do so, though, if it's cool with you, I kind of want to just kind of get your take on a few current events.
Okay.
All right. So, I mean, let's start in the acting world and the TV series world. I mean, you're coming off, obviously, the show Bravas. I mean, Selena has been the big talk of the internet over the last week. A lot of mixed emotions about it. I've seen a lot of people kind of shitting on it on the internet. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, but let's talk about it a little bit. It's the number one show on Netflix. They have, Latin writers and actors, and all that is obviously incredibly important. First and foremost, did you watch the series yet?
I haven't watched it yet, but I see it all over media about, the negative stuff they're saying about it. But I feel like everybody has their own taste at the same time. I mean, I've seen movies where people are like, oh, that movie, it's like not a good movie, but then I watch it and I love it. So I got to watch it myself and see what is it about. But I mean, I also heard great things about it. So, I mean, yeah.
I mean, talk about that. I think what people might be missing is you're obviously coming from a show in Bravas that was a Latin cast, Latin directors and everything like that. Why is it so important that people support these kinds of projects and support our stories being told?
Well, when I was filming Brava, one of the things that Jesse Terrero told me, him being a Latino and being a director, is like how difficult it was to pitch this idea. Because there's not a lot of like Latin productions, like things on Netflix and stuff like that being told. So he told me it's been challenging, but I feel like these things are opening doors for Latinos to continue to fight for their spot and know that there's a space for us to also tell our story, you know what I'm saying? But it's going to take time. It's going to take dedication, and we have to really like work hard to get ourselves up there. But I feel like we're already breaking through those things. We just got to continue, be consistent with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's, like you said, it's incredibly important. I think also, something like Selena, regardless of what people felt about it, it being the number one show on Netflix shows the power that our stories have and that people do have an interest in seeing our stories and hearing about it, And Bravas did a great job of not just kind of being entertaining, but hitting on a lot of hard-hitting topics. You had, domestic abuse and the mistreatment of women, and you had women being put up in the light as the artists as opposed to what we normally see when it comes to the men. And I think something that Jesse's very good at is having a diverse cast as far as the way they look, right? Showing the real way that Latinos look. We don't all look the same. We come in different shades and sizes and everything like that. I mean, what do you kind of hope that people get from the message of Bravas as a whole who haven't seen it yet?
Just really the rawness that comes from Puerto Rico and being a female in the industry is things that I have experienced myself being a musician, like certain doors are closed because we don't want to dress the way they want us to dress or like, act the way they want us to act. So telling this story was super important for me. And I feel like something that Jesse Terrero also did that's very unique. I never been an actress, and I was given this opportunity. So he made sure that with the casting, it was people that can really represent the paper, not just be able to act it out. And I feel like that's why the show is so authentic and so unique and raw, because every single girl lives this outside of the cameras, and you can tell those things.
So, I mean, and I agree 100%. I think that actually what I was curious about as a fan, I saw it on the YouTube, I guess the premium thing. Did something happen that it moved to, I can't remember the artist's name right now. They moved it to her YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, it's Nati Natasha, because she's part of the project as well. It's been like that from the beginning. I know it was going to go through YouTube, but it wasn't until later that I found out it was going to be on her channel, which is it's amazing. She's the number one most watched female Latin artist on YouTube. So, and she's, a big part of the project itself, and she represents a lot of what the story is about. So it really opened the door for, like I said, for us Latino to come in and tell this story. And I hope it continues to open new doors so we can continue creating these type of things.
No, absolutely. I love that. I mean, all right, so we're talking the internet and the power of it, right? So obviously a space like YouTube existing gives opportunities like the one you're talking about for Bravas. Yeah. But there is a lot of negative backlash when it comes to social media. And there was a lawsuit that the government has filed this week against Facebook, and they're telling them that they have to sell off Instagram and WhatsApp. Do you kind of feel like these social media platforms might have too much power right now? Because we see the way information spreads and I guess they're not policed at all when it comes to the information they're putting out there. I mean, what do you kind of think about social media and the way that exists right now?
I feel like those things like coming out to the light, I almost feel like it's done on purpose, to get them talking about these platforms and stuff like that. Because same thing happened with TikTok.
Right.
And it was just like a lot of back and forth, and now TikTok is still there. So it's very interesting. Social media is super interesting. And if you don't have like good control of it, it can consume you in the wrong way. It can get into you in the wrong way. So we have to be careful what we read, what we believe in. I personally use it at a minimum time also, because there was a good time where I was just consuming so much stuff on the media that it was really driving me crazy. And then I look on my phone, it tells me that I've been online for like 10 hours today. I'm like, oh, wait, I have to get out. I got to get away from here. So I feel like social media, them spreading these things and talking about these things is kind of just making people be like paying attention even more than what they already are. Yeah. That's just my input on it.
Now, I actually love that you said that you try to be intentional about the amount of time you spend on it. Because that's a lot of people don't realize like how much time you're really wasting away on it, and like how it's designed to keep you on there for extended periods of time, You
can actually set up your phone now. So it tells you like once you use it for 10 hours, it actually locks you out of your phone.
Yeah, which is beautiful. I love that. I mean, so in life, outside of social media, are you kind of one of these people like you're very intentional about the way you spend your time? You're very like, focused on how much time is being spent here as opposed to this? I mean, talk to me about, I guess, your daily practices.
All of those, being an artist, you have to be balanced, and you have to create that discipline within yourself, like your health, your mental health, like physical health, like all your work, your job. So me working from home, because I'm a music artist, like I make sure in the mornings I meditate, I have my breakfast, I go to the gym, I have my book session, I'll sit down and read at least for 30 minutes a day. And all of these things play a big role in when I go create music. So having that balance is definitely very important.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, I can tell personally that like the weeks that I was off on meditating in the morning, or that I wasn't reading at night like I normally do, I just feel super cloudy. I'm stressed. You know what I mean? You can feel the difference when you don't take that time for yourself. It's super interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I love that like our generation is kind of, taking the time to realize these things. Our parents probably had no idea of whatsoever and didn't even realize,
Exactly. No. And I try to preach about it. And my friends, the other artists, as they look at me, they're like, oh, I take no days off. I'm like, well, taking days off is part of the process,
Right.
Like, you don't have to front that you're working 24 hours. Like sleeping is part of the job, and getting rest and educating yourself and working on your health and all this stuff. It plays a part.
No, absolutely. It makes you sharper with your work, when you do go back to work, for sure. I mean, so you mentioned working from home, though. It's an interesting, obviously, time period that we're in right now. Everybody's essentially working from home for the most part. There's a lot of people actually that I've seen, like bigger celebrities like Joe Rogan or Elon Musk, talking about leaving California, moving to Texas, places like Texas where it's cheaper to live. I'm curious for you, now that the world has kind of opened itself up, though, where we can do so many things from home, and technology is so incredible. Do you ever see yourself having a time where you might think about leaving Puerto Rico?
I actually just came here. I was actually living in Orlando, Florida, and
wow.
It was great. It was fun. But family is here, home is here, and I feel great. It's a great space. I love the air here, and it's I live more like, it's cheaper, yes, but there's more things to do here, like going camping, the rivers, and things that are for free to enjoy nature that really helps me. I love connecting with nature and being able to just go away from all this technology stuff. So out in Orlando, I wasn't able to do that. So here I am able to do that. And it really, I love it. So
what the difference I think people don't realize is there's so much of the same stuff over there that there is here. A lot of people thinking that when you travel to Puerto Rico or you go there, it's like going to a whole nother world. But the reality is, there's a lot of the same shit they have over here, and you can live a lot of the same lifestyle. I mean, one of those things that we've kind of seen is they decriminalized marijuana here in the States this last week. I know when I was in Puerto Rico last year, I saw a lot of like the medicinal kind of clinics popping up, I guess, the dispensaries and things like that.
Yeah, they still have them up and running, yeah.
So what's your take on weed and all that kind of stuff? You think that they should just be legalizing at this point and stop harassing people?
I feel like you know what it is? Like, there's people that know how to consume things like social media, drinking coffee, or, whatever it is, I feel like if people just learn how to like be educated about things and how to consume things in the right portion, it could be very beneficial to our life. Like social media can be beneficial, coffee can be beneficial, marijuana could be beneficial. But I feel if you're using it for the wrong reasons, and it could affect you. So really it comes down to that. It comes down to the consumer and what is the purpose and the reason to using it. But honestly, medicine, it's getting, my mom takes like 5 to 10 pills a day, and I know people that will use medical marijuana and stop taking pills. So there's great benefits to it. But like I said, there's also people that will use it for the wrong reasons. And then that's where the back and forth goes. But I'm not against it, But.
Yeah. I mean, I think like the overall thesis of this conversation is discipline, right? It's really just, that's life in general, I feel like, and knowing, your limits and your boundaries and all those kinds of things. So let's now move into talking about all that you have going on, because obviously this year, you've killed it this year, but doing it in a year like this one, where so much BS is happening around the world and we're all kind of trapped in our places, it takes a lot of discipline to make things happen. So, I mean, let's kind of talk about it. Tell me about the EP you just dropped.
Yeah, the EP I just dropped is 8 songs, and they were all written during quarantine time. And like you said, it was a lot of BS going around. So sometimes I put out singles every month before the EP, and it was challenging because there's always like a big news every day during quarantine. So it will take away from the artist, like the focus, because these other stuff are trending. So it was challenging, but I feel like being consistent and putting out good content is always going to come out good. But yeah, and during quarantine, I took my time to really focus on my writing, developing like my vocals and what I wanted to represent as an artist. So when Bravas came out, when the EP came out, it's everything that I wanted it to be. So, there it is. Sin Fin, the EP is super versatile, different style songs. They don't all sound the same, and I'm super happy about it.
Do you think you would have written, because I did notice that about the EP, it's kind of a lot of cool different genres, mixing things together. Do you think you would have produced the same type of product had it not have been for the quarantine?
No.
In what way?
No, because Bravas was supposed to come out in May, but because of the quarantine, they moved it. So I didn't have no music out. I only had like 1 or 2 songs. So during quarantine, I had no other option but to be consistent and put out music to, get my name out there. But if Bravas would have came out in May, those like 3 months, like it just wouldn't have been enough for me to become what I am today, So right. God knows where I would have gone, maybe it would have been great too, but I don't know. I feel like everything happens for a reason, and this was a blessing for me. So I don't see it no other way.
No, facts. I agree with that 100%. What about like the subject matter that you wrote about? Do you think that being locked down during this time affected the things that you wrote about this time around?
What's so cool about it? Like, I'm a person that I'm very deep, so in quarantine, because I'm not in a rush to create, and because I have my setup in my studio in my house, it's not like, hey, you're in the studio for 3 hours, whatever you can get done in 3 hours. It's like I have this freedom of like creative process that it was everything. I was able to think about every single word I was going to talk about, I was going to say on this song, or like the message, like break it down, structure it. Like I just had the time. I wasn't in a rush. And now I learned that I will never rush any song, because I see the beauty in taking my time and really developing. And again, like what I write about is things that I either lived through at some point or going through at the moment. So I just let myself feel whatever I feel that day, and I just write about it. I don't try to force it.
No, I love that. I mean, so I know you just dropped the video for Viaje. Anything else? What can people expect coming up from you, I guess, till the end of this year and going into 2021?
Well, for the EP, we're dropping a music video every week, every Tuesday. Wow. So we're at the second video now. We got 3 more to go. So yeah, we got 3 more videos before the year ends. And then 2021 is going to be even crazier.
I love it. Well, listen, I'm excited to hear more from you. I'm a fan of what you've been doing so far.
Thanks,
And wishing you nothing but the best luck. I appreciate you hopping on here today.
You too. Thank you for being so cool.
Absolutely. Man, big thank you to my guest once again, Nohemy. Absolutely incredible. Make sure you check out her EP, Sing Fing, is out everywhere right now. And check out her YouTube channel. Like she said, she's dropping a video every week, which is crazy and definitely worth watching. Now, before I get out of here, I want to leave you, on some positivity for the rest of your weekend going into next week, as I always do. We'll do so with a quote, as we do every week. Now, this week's quote comes to us from the legend that is Roberto Clemente. And the quote is, anytime you have an opportunity to make a difference in this world and you don't, then you're wasting your time on earth. I'll say that again. Anytime you have an opportunity to make a difference in this world and you don't, then you're wasting your time on earth. And man, if there is one quote that I would love to choose to live by for the rest of my days here, it probably would be this one, man. This is so important. And for us to really realize the impact that we can have if we all just kind of come together and make an intentional decision to try and make this world a better place. As corny as that sounds, little things that we all can do in our everyday lives, our interactions with one another, our ability to be empathetic to one another. And even on a larger scale, talking about the way that I started the show with the unfortunate case of Vanessa Guillen and people not really seeming to care at the level that they should. All of these different things can really be, made just a little bit better if we all, decide to live our lives with intention and recognize the fact that we're not put here on this earth just to feed our own egos or just to kind of get by. We have to have a greater purpose. And that greater purpose has to be, leaving a positive, lasting impact on this planet, before our time is up. And listen, it doesn't take some sort of grandiose action. It just takes being a good person each and every day. And that will, continue on and continue to create a domino effect that affects people's lives for long after we're all gone. So I'll get off my soapbox now. Just something to think about, going into this week and as we begin to close out this year. A great quote to keep in mind. Now, with that said, thank you so much for joining me once again this week. As always, the support means the world to me. And I'll be back next week as I always am. Again, make sure you check out our girl, B. Marie, every weekday doing mornings on LATV, giving you the daily top headlines. And then I will be here each and every Saturday, as I always am, helping you break down some of those bigger stories. Until then, stay safe. Talk to you soon. Bye.